Council. Later on, the Chief Executive will make opening remarks and then we will take questions. Because of the epidemic, please maintain social distancing and keep your mask on. Chief Executive, please. Media friends and Hong Kong members of the public, good morning. First of all, about the epidemic and also the second phase relaxation of social distancing measures within this week. As we all know, in the past week, Hong Kong's epidemic situation remained stable. Every day, the new number of COVID cases via PCR test or RAT remained at the level of 200 to 300. Because of that, we consider that the risk at present is under control. As we have announced that on this first day, the 19th of May, we will have the second stage of relaxation. It will be implemented on schedule. In terms of the details, previously the FEHB has made announcements. I will repeat them. Now the measures involve the following. First, for catering premises, the dining service hours will be extended to 11:59 p.m. That is before midnight. Earlier on, the number of people allowed per table was extended to 8, so the number will remain the same. However, for banquets, the maximum number of participants will be increased to 150, and also pubs and bars will be allowed to reopen, and business hours will be until 11:59 with 4 persons per table, and also they can operate at a capacity of 75% of the premises. Thirdly, for those scheduled premises which were still closed in phase 1 will be reopened, including bathhouses, party rooms, nightclubs, karaoke, mahjong, tiangao premises, and also cruises. Still, they will be subject to restriction in terms of capacity and so on. Fourth, for those premises which were allowed to reopen during phase 1, there will be further relaxation, mainly involving the capacity allowed. Previously, they were 50% or 75%, mostly 50%. Now they will be increased to 85%, including cinemas, performance venues, museums, religious premises, and so on. For cinemas which have already been expanded to 85%, drinking and eating will also be allowed. The last measure is about mask wearing. Previously, for intensive exercises outdoor, no mask will be required. In the next phase, for indoor premises and also gyms which meets the air exchange requirements, no mask will be allowed. No mask will be required as well. Please refer to the press release issued by the FEHB on the 3rd of May. Now, I understand media friends and members of the public wonder what stage we are in. Of course, we have long passed the peak of the 5th wave. However, we are at a static low level. For 8 or 10 days, we have not seen any obvious decrease or increase. At the same time, we have seen clusters appearing. In the community, there is still transmission of virus. And also, the transmission has caused clusters, so there is a risk. So far, clusters have occurred in crowded places without mask activities, including the restaurants and also a billiard room. It is reported that the billiard players in the venue have taken off their masks for drinking at certain points. In the next stage, there will be more activities allowed without mask wearing. So we have to be very careful. If you are not drinking or doing sports, you should put your mask on. Especially, it is better to wear a KN95, a face-fitting mask to prevent infection. So we still have 200 to 300 cases. We have been doing a lot. We have been very proactive in our efforts in early identification and early treatment. We haven't slowed down our work in this regard. One example is sewage examination. And once we have identified samples with high viral load, we would take actions. Now, for the 100 examples per day, the positive rate is some 30% compared with a month ago. We found a virus in almost every sample. So the situation has obviously improved. Every morning around 7 a.m., we would receive the report about the samples with higher viral load, and we would take actions immediately. And also, we have resumed compulsory testing in the community. There have been some 40 CTNs operations. So every day, the community testing centers are doing some 60,000 to 70,000 tests. Third, we have the RAT requirements. We are one of the few places that we require some 1/7 of our population to do a RAT every day. The daily RAT requirements involves some 1 million people in Hong Kong. So these are mostly students and teaching staff in schools. That accounts for 900,000 people, and also for residents and staff in care homes, frontline civil servants, HA staff, as well as people with high exposure risk, for example, those working in airports and quarantine hotels. They are all subject to the daily RAT requirements. So at some places, and there are no more tests. However, in Hong Kong, we are still finding out cases via PCR tests and RATs. So given that backdrop, it is reasonable to have 200 to 300 cases each day. There is no need to worry, and we can move on to the second stage of relaxation of social distancing measures. However, like I said, we cannot let our guard down. Because of the decrease in the number of cases, it is aligned with our original intention, that is not to overload our public healthcare system with the surging number of COVID-19 patients. The situation in hospitals are now reassuring. Today, there are some 700 COVID patients in hospitals. For patients with more serious conditions in ICUs, there are 2. So we have a lot of spare isolation beds for COVID patients. We also have a large number of community isolation facilities in reserve, as well as temporary holding centers for elderly people. It is because of the control over the epidemic that we can resume economic activities, as well as meet people's aspiration to resume to normal life. The situation is also happening overseas.
From the figures we have at the Hong Kong International Airport, in this month, we have about 2,000 people arriving every day. That is still a very low level. But compared to a few hundreds every day previously, there is a marked increase. And I can say that since the beginning of 2020, that is the beginning of COVID-19 outbreak, it's a high level. From the arrivals at Hong Kong, there is a group that is very important. I can say that they're essential to Hong Kong people's lives. They are foreign domestic helpers. Starting from the 1st of April, we have removed the flight ban on 9 places so far over 1.5 months. Till the 15th of May, we have over 10,000 foreign domestic helpers arriving in Hong Kong. That itself is a great relief to a lot of households in the help of taking care of their elderlies and their young. But I'd like to issue a reminder. There are some indicators that may cause concern. First is the effective reproductive number. That is, how many people will an infected person infect? As long as it's under 1, as I said, we don't need to worry, but the latest number is very close to 1. That is a result of increase in movement of people. So we can expect that with every relaxation and with more people moving about, the effective reproductive number will climb up, especially when we have a static number of cases. With a steady number of local infections and an increasing effective reproductive number, then the number will continue to climb. That number, reproductive number, may become more than 1, but there is no need to worry. Another reminder I'd like to issue is to get vaccinated. As I said, that we have to protect our healthcare system. We have to keep the number of serious cases down, and the only way is vaccination. Currently, the vaccination rate, especially in the elderly group, has room for improvement. So the Secretary for Civil Service has racked his brains to try to find ways to boost the vaccination rate. And that's not just the first, the second dose. We're talking about a third dose as well. Well, the other matter I'd like to talk about is the reorganization of the government. Last week, I have said here that we have a very tight schedule. We hope that today the proposal will be submitted to the EXCO on the 17th of May. Normally, we will not disclose the agenda of the EXCO, but this is a matter close to all your hearts. So I can confirm that in today's EXCO meeting, we will discuss one item, that is, the proposal made by the CE-elect on the organization and structure of the 6th term of the government. I myself and my government will be very happy to dovetail our work with that of the CE-elect. If it is endorsed, then we will issue electrical papers and disseminate a press release, but at this moment is not in a position to disclose any further details. Now the floor is open. Raise your hands, identify your media outlet, and use the microphone we give you. Please limit your number of questions to 2 and no supplementary questions. The one in the middle at the front. Good morning, Mrs. Lam. First, I'd like to ask about the epidemic. There are experts saying that in the coming few weeks, the number of cases will increase. Will it affect our roadmap to resumption of normal activities? Mr. Cowling of Hong Kong U said that, well, you will have to start thinking about living with the virus. Is it the case that in order to get the border open, we have to maintain dynamic zero, or would you consider how to live with the virus? In relation to reorganization of the government, what's the chance of the EXCO endorsing the proposal? And what's the view of Mr. Lee? Is his, well, is there any room for adjustment compared to your original proposal? Can you give us any idea about what the government structure is going to be on the 1st of July? I'm from TVB.
No.
I'm from Now TV. I noticed that there are different views from different experts, and it shows that, well, it is a fluid situation. If it is a surge of number of cases, then they may share the same view. They may say that we need to do certain things, say, for example, vaccination. But at the moment, the number of cases is static. That's why we have diverse views. I do not want to comment on the views of individual experts because the government has their own views. But I'd like to emphasize that in our fight against the epidemic in the past 2 years or so, I personally thank the valuable views from experts. But as they say, they are not directly involved in the formulation of government policies. Say, for example, when there will be social distancing measures, when the relaxations will be, and what are the prevention of importation cases it's about. Well, they give us their views, and we are not led by their opinion. We will balance a basket of factors, say, for example, the economic needs, the needs for resumption of normal activities, before we make a decision to come up with the most appropriate solution, the most appropriate approach. Opening the borders is our first and foremost objective. As I said last week, in order to open the border again with the mainland, we have to restart discussions. At the end of last year, we were very close to reaching a common basis for opening of the borders, and that will be our starting point. Regarding the reorganization proposal, it's not appropriate for me to make any comments here because it is going to be discussed by the EXCO. But I can say that the CE-elect has said many times that he inclines towards accepting the proposal I made in the policy address and something that I announced at the beginning of the year, that is, with 3 chief secretaries and 15 policy bureaus. That will be the blueprint, but there are other suggestions as well. So I ask for your patience. I am confident that after discussion by the EXCO this morning, it will be endorsed. Time's tight. But if it takes another week for endorsement, I'm afraid that it might have an impact on our goal to complete all formalities and procedures before the end of June. These procedures and formalities include going through the LegCo. As far as I know, that they've set up a subcommittee which will be convened this Friday for the first time. The subcommittee will have to do 2 things. First, in relation to the establishment subcommittee and the finance committee, they will have to endorse funding approval involved with the reorganization. The other thing that they have to do is to endorse a government resolution at a council meeting. We hope that we will be able to complete all is necessary before mid-June or end of June. Next, the lady in the.
Good morning. I'm from Cable News. According to the experts, we shouldn't try to boost the vaccination rates anymore, especially for those about below 60, because the fatality cases and the serious cases are mostly elderly people. So what is the government's position? Are we going to boost the vaccination rates anymore, and what's the justification? Second question, Cardinal Joseph San was arrested by the police NSL departments. So as a Catholic yourself, how do you feel about this? Are you going to pray for the Cardinal? On your first question, like I said, I don't want to comment on individual experts' view. I reiterate, vaccination is still a crucial tool in fighting the epidemic. Even if you are vaccinated, you will not be totally immune from infection. So we are seeing more patients who have been vaccinated, as many as 3 doses. As we said at the very beginning, vaccination is not a means to prevent infection, but a means to reduce serious complication or even fatality after infection. That is well proven. Even if we have cases, we have very few critical cases. So there are only 2 COVID patients in ICUs. From this perspective, everyone should be vaccinated, because you never know when you go out to buy takeaways and when you eat outside, you may get infected. If you are vaccinated, it will be mild and you will recover soon. So we will continue to implement the vaccination program. In other words, by the 31st of May, we will implement the next stage of the vaccine pass, that is 3 doses. For all eligible population aged above 3, only 50% have been vaccinated with 3 doses. So we have to continue to provide incentives to get people vaccinated. Second, that is about the rule of law. There is no person's sentiments involved. Hong Kong is a rule of law, is a law-based society. This, regardless of your age, gender, religion, as long as you are suspected of having contravened the law enforcement agency will take actions. There will be no regard to the person's background and occupation. It's about how the law is written and what evidence the departments have. In the end, the Department of Justice will have to make an independent decision to prosecute. And then the independent judiciary will make a judgment. Thank you. Let's take the last question. The lady in brown.
Lam, this is from SCMP. So first, have you reached a consensus with John Lee on the details of the restructuring plan? Is there a possibility that some principal officials will have to stay on for some time in the next term because time is pressing for CE-elect to form his own team? And second, would the government proceed with the third phase of vaccine pass when around 1 million people eligible for third shot still haven't been taken their third shot? Yeah, thank you.
I'll answer the second question first, because I have just referred to the government's commitment to the vaccination program. Now, vaccination remains the most effective way to prevent a serious illness arising from COVID-19 infection. And if we could keep this situation, then we will not be overburdening the Hong Kong public hospitals. And that has always been one of the primary objectives of our anti-epidemic work in Hong Kong. So with that objective in mind, we will continue to implement what we have announced for a very long time. So we are not suddenly requiring Hong Kong people to take the third dose before you could enter restaurants or gym and other venues. We have been telling people and announcing well in advance the 3-dose requirement under the vaccine pass. So I can confirm and reaffirm here that remains our plan. So on 31st May, then people will have to have proof of having taken 3 doses before they can enter their premises. Unless they have medical reasons or they are recovered patients, then there will be some special arrangements. Now, on the first question, let me put it in a very absolute way. There is no question of myself and the chief executive-elect reaching a consensus, or as you put it, a consent. There's nothing that the CE-elect needs from me in terms of consent or approval. My role is to facilitate the next term chief executive to have the best and optimal government structure to enable him to discharge what he has promised the people of Hong Kong. I said this well before the elections. I announced in my policy address last year that this proposal on restructuring was not done for myself, it's for the government. But based on my experience, especially with the experience as a chief executive, I thought something needs to be changed in terms of a government structure. So I offered some initial ideas in my October 2021 policy address. And thereafter, we talked to people, we received recommendations from community, from Legislative Council, and that has given rise to a set of very detailed proposals, which I announced on the 12th of January 2022. That is to increase the number of policy bureaus from 13 to 15, and so on, so on. And since then, we have received broad support for the set of proposals. So this then forms the basis for the chief executive-elect to consider. If he felt that this was not the right approach, he could throw it away and start afresh. But on this occasion, John Lee felt that he agreed with the entire package. So what we are putting to Exco this morning will include the full components of government restructuring that I announced in January this year. But I can also tell you that there will be other proposals. It will not be just the set of proposals put forward by the current term of government. And this is only natural because each chief executive will have his own governance style. And having regard to the aspirations of the people and the priorities that he has set for the next 5 years, it is only natural for him to come up with more ideas on how to restructure the government. My job is to facilitate the approval for a new government structure. I'm not involved in identifying the candidates to fill the various positions in the political team. So whether that could be done in time, I don't know. You have to ask the chief executive-elect. But it will be very unusual to invite the existing politically appointed officials just to fill the gap and stay on for a few months because they are not the civil servants. Their term is entirely my term. It's a 5-year term. So I hope that would not be the situation. And I have every confidence that John should be able to find all the right people to fill the various positions. 多謝晒大家。
好，今日時間差唔多，多謝大家。
Thank you very much.